go down like a bit. And when it went like that, I was like, why don't they open all the way? And then I realized that it was a safety feature. So the windows, when they were down like that, I thought they were broken, something was wrong and they couldn't go down all the way. But apparently it's like that on purpose to make sure that the bus is properly ventilated, while also making sure that children, the rowdy ones, the unruly ones, don't get in a situation where they can stick their head or their body out of the bus and be reckless. So it was something I didn't understand, and it wasn't even a feature I think was even announced. But when I saw it in action, I looked at the gap specifically, I'm like, why is it like that? And as the trip went on, I was like, oh, it's to stop children from sticking their head out, sticking their body out, potentially being in harm's way. So that's a very underrated feature of the bus. And if you look on the roof, I was telling you about the cameras earlier. The video is going to replay, so we're going to see it again. There are 4 cameras. There were 4 cameras in the bus that I at least could identify. And you can see a couple there, the black little dots that you see on the roof. Oh, those are cameras. Minister Vaz did tell us that these buses will have surveillance, and that's the surveillance right there. So there's one in front of the driver, as he said, and there's 2 in the middle of the bus, and then there's one that you can't see that was near me at the back that can see the entire bus from the rear. So that's how the buses are going to be monitored, I guess. Obviously, there's going to be a warden on all of them. There's going to be a dean at the bus stops making sure everybody gets on, but that's just another safety feature that the buses have.
All right, so as the students exited the bus, you had more joining.
Yeah, more that were at the bus stop. I didn't think they were going to see a rural school bus, but that they did, and they were allowed on. So I think the children that came on were from Mona Heights Primary, I believe. So, and they're there.
Oh, the younger ones.
Right. So we had a mix of the high schoolers and the primary schoolers on this specific bus. So that's them coming on in their white and green uniforms. So moving on, we made a couple of stops at JC and Papine, and then eventually we got to Mona, which was the last stop. And yeah, this is the final stop at Mona High School's gate. And Minister Vaz at this point had left. He had come off at the Papine stop. So we were with Minister Williams and Minister Morris Dixon. So this is the final stop of the first trip of the corporate area buses, and that's me coming off right there, and that's Mona High School right behind them.
So on the way to Papine,
right?
Yeah, they didn't go by Mona High School.
No. So what happened is, and this is the funny part, the students were so concerned because they were telling me they were very confused when they drove past JC and another stop, because they're like, this is where we normally come off.
Get off.
We come off and then we cross the road and we walk to Mona High. Yeah. They're like, what's going on? We're going to be late. I was like, no, it's not going to be late. They're going to go to Papine, and then what the bus is going to do for this specific trip, I don't know if this is going to be a feature all the way through, but what the bus did on this specific trip was it went from Papine to Mona Heights, and then to Mona High. So it didn't just drop them off at one area. It brought them to the gate, which is something they weren't expecting. So they were very concerned. Even the parent was on the bus like, my son normally comes off down there. What's going on? So, yeah.
So they went to Papine and then came back.
Right. So there was a major stop in Papine for Minister Vaz to give a little detail of the bus to the members of the public. So he departed the bus along with some of the students. But in terms of the rest of the Mona students that still had to go to school at Mona Heights and Mona High School, they came off of the bus and they stayed on the bus, and we all went to Mona Heights, then we went to Mona High, and then from there we went back to Papine.
All right, Mahiri. I know you've now got to go and marshal the reporting from rural Jamaica. I want to see what happened in rural Jamaica this morning with the buses.
Same, because again, my experience was a corporate area experience. So I know George wants me at some point, I think tomorrow or some point during this week, to go on another route that goes up into those hilly areas that these buses were really meant to tackle.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be an interesting because honestly, to be honest with you, this ride, as smooth as Hope Road may appear compared to those rural routes that these buses are expected to go on, it was a pretty bumpy ride, but the good part of the bumps is that you were able to see how the buses tackled that kind of terrain. I mean, it was shaking, obviously, as any vehicle would going over the bumps, but it was still stable. You could tell that the suspension was doing its job.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mahiri Stewart. After the break, the Electoral Office of Jamaica saying now the final count of ballots is completed, over, and it is warning, the EOJ warning against misinformation and the lies about the process on social media. That's after the break.